Johnny's right, Matt. We need to get moving, baby, and look at this first match of the day.
I hate it.
This one, by the way, is a win-and-in. There's a win-and-in scenario for both these teams, right?
Yeah.
For Toronto, a win here puts them into knockouts, but a win for Paris puts them into the play-in bracket, Matt.
Nice.
Gives them a chance, obviously, to compete in playoffs. So, two very different scales, I think, of stakes for these two rosters. But it's a very important game for both of them as a result.
It is, and I feel like, at least in my opinion, I think Toronto, it's a little bit like more important. I feel like they are a team that throughout the season, not a lot of people have really looked at or maybe have taken seriously in terms of like, you know, contending, where they have an opportunity now to really kind of elevate themselves into that picture, right? Of, you know, hey, you get a good meta, you can be one of the teams that makes the playoffs at the end. I think Paris has been pretty consistent all throughout. I think we've seen them have, you know, some really high highs in certain metas and then also underperform in other scenarios. We can take a look at the Paris Eternal starting lineup here. Nothing too surprising. I know Naga and Suna, in terms of the DPS, that's kind of really where you look at this team to make changes. Everything else pretty standard for the Paris Eternal.
So there's got to be a feel, right, that Suna, who is a less frequently seen player on this roster, we often see him piloting Tracer, right? I think that's where we expect them to go here. This team, just like the Chick-fil-A looking logo, tends to grow on you a lot. And this roster, I think, is positioned pretty well despite their overall season standings. Naga, I think, is second in hero damage, on Pharah, across all Pharah players so far coming into this week. So we know he's a really high impact player. I think Dridro, Matt, in Brig Bab comps, Brig Zen comps, looks incredibly good. Like, his backline, I feel like, is such a really strong feature of this team.
Yeah, you really like the backline, and then also being able to incorporate, Dridro and Vistola during the season, and having both of them turn into really high impact players. Toronto Defiant, they've added Aspire, right? We've seen him play a significant amount of time since they've added him. It was like a temporary contract and an extension of that, and then finally it's like, oh yeah, we'll just keep him. He's pretty good. They'll have him in the starting lineup today here with these.
I mean, the fans would have had them on pitchforks, mate, if they had just fade back into obscurity, or rather just go have to play in tier 2. This guy made a bang when he first appeared, and then he kept going. It wasn't just this one performance. It wasn't just some sort of fluke. This guy turned out to be a world-class player, and those close to him probably knew that already. But that's the beauty of discovering this talent in these other scenes and regions, Matthew.
Yeah, and Michelle last game had the game of his life, right? So many ultimates negated. You saw, against the Justice, right? Decay just throw the pulse bombs in.
I mean, how many people can shut down
anger
Decay
of that? So
in a player-to-player? It is ridiculous. You know what's even crazier about that, though, is that that performance didn't even take him to #1 in the league for ultimates negated on Diva. But he's 0.4 ultimates negated per 10 over like a large portion of playtime, which is significant. That is pretty insane. I thought the Winston play was good for the Toronto Defiant. Obviously, they tried a little bit of wrecking ball. They eventually sort of strayed away from it. So we know what Sato can do on that particular hero over his multiple years now of service in the Overwatch League. And again, this is a match to watch for multiple reasons. Both these teams have something riding on it. Toronto really want the chance to get into these knockouts, to really show what they're made of. We're not convinced that this is necessarily their meta. This is not necessarily their time to sort of be a top team, because we have a lot of questions about, especially the Sombra matchup we saw against the Justice, Matt, which was confusing at times. We still want to see what kind of player Hisu especially is going to develop into. Such a highly talked about prospect, such a hyped player, not quite reaching those highest of heights in the Overwatch League.
Well, you see the potential for Toronto, right? With the roster they have, what we've seen from Sato and Hisu last year with the Philadelphia Fusion, and even from Michelle Astro, right? Some standout players. I like the Winston look for Toronto if they can make it work. Sato, I think, definitely more comfortable on the Winston. Very good Winston player. And the Paris Eternal, they seem to have an idea that this is the type of competition they're going to go up against. They play a very static composition.
Yeah, it's the bad piece with the Brick here, and Hisu really needs to go to work on these shields right now. Dana's going to be a problem. I like the flanking idea if he can catch Suna out, but there's a preemptive immortality field thrown down. Sato's able to remove that here, but the Eternal do what their comp does best, Matt. They just plonk themselves down on the point. and they dare the Defiant to come towards them.
Yeah, maybe they thought that the pressure was going to come in a little bit faster there from Toronto, but it doesn't. So the Immortality field kind of goes for nothing, but still Paris Eternal with Naga getting that first pick, able to turn the tide. Hisu will go over to Hangzhou. This is really odd where you have like Hangzhou Tracer with the Winston in the mix here for the Defiant.
Composition that's trying to do a lot of different things right now, but Sada's doing absolutely nothing while he's waiting for a respawn. He's halted out into the Ant Matrix and taken down. The Eternal, again, they're being pretty preemptive, right? First, it's that early Immortality field. They're not punished for it. There, they just go for it. They throw down the Ant Matrix. They know what their composition is designed to do. They look really well drilled playing this setup.
Well, I mean, even if they get rid of the shield, it's still just a lot of staying power for the Paris Eternal. Everybody pretty sturdy in terms of the hero selection they have across the board. As Spire trying to land a pulse bomb, and you also have the nano on the Sato. Big investment here from the Defiant.
Yeah, he goes for the primal. He pulled up a little bit short on Suna there, and he really wanted to secure the kill. That is a nasty one. Khan goes over the edge there to the Primal Rage, and the Self-Destruct does little more than to cause the Defiant briefly to disperse. That is a Molten Core, though. That's nasty. Everyone gets halted into that one there by Dan, but they don't spend enough time in the group for it to take them down. The Defiant have the numbers. They have the point here at 67 for the Eternal.
Oh, I mean, both teams just dump pretty much everything into that fight. Suna will come back with a high noon, and then you'll have a Dragon here for Hisu for this next fight. No grab to use it with, though. So that was used in the previous fight. So Toronto could be able to split players off with this Dragon and then get Sato in a position to take some players out.
Yeah, speculative, though. They're going to try and get some value, but Pistola eats it up. Hisu's just a little bit too close. Pistola's able to eat the arrow component of the Dragon Strike, and Michelle goes down to the Deadeye. So one team gets value from their singular ultimate in that fight, the other does not. Dan wants to push up aggressively here, and the rest of the Eternal, I assume, would follow up on that. Yeah, Suna with 3 for the fight. Good look here for the McCrees. We normally see only got in this position. Nice to see Suna come in, and nice to see some lifting equipment behind him there. My guy,
I was going to say, I was like, yeah, maybe he's been watching your workout.
I might have to add him to the list of people to train with in the off-season match. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I have. You know, I've been following your workout.
So you're my biggest motivator, man. Big fan of your support, mate.
That's what a lot of people say.
Okay.
No, they can't touch the point.
Yeah, they try and touch. Yeah, shield bash there. I think catches Lastro before he gets there. Good looks for the Paris Eternal, Matt. I feel like from their position, you probably feel a little more comfortable playing this composition, right? You get to be reactive. You get to be the one that sort of sets the pace by just sort of setting up in this durable composition.
Especially knowing that Toronto wants to play things that are, you know, more fast-paced, that really kind of go with their play style. So I like this decision here from Toronto, at least what they're hovering thus far. The Wrecking Ball, more survivable than the Winston in this circumstance. And then also the Zenyatta in the mix for the damage. So you have that extra burst damage potential to try and take out one of these sturdy targets.
Very few of those sturdy targets really hit the deck in that previous round. The Defiant struggled to carve them out of this Orisa-led formation. All right, let's see what they get done with the Sombra Tracer setup here. Sato needs to be wary. There is no Discord Orb in play, but there's still plenty of tools to deal with. The Wrecking Ball, he just, I mean, looks like on the outside he just ints that one, but he's just able to make the trade here on towards Suna. The Eternal set up on the high ground here. They leave their tanks low.
Yeah, but with no main tank, you can drop down to the point like the Paris Eternal are doing and just forcing the Toronto Defiant back. You see, Jojo can be so aggressive on the break. You know, we're watching just Hisu farm up, you know, this EMP, but oh man, they go in so far, Mitch, that you have Sato get back into the fight. They're never actually able to collapse on Lastro, and Toronto's able to turn it. Yeah,
I do wonder, you know, why we see a commitment there from the Eternal, sort of pushing off the point into the Defiant setup. Also, frankly, Naga sees Hisu on the high ground, just turns around and says, I don't really want to deal with this Sombra right now, walks away, and Hisu's able to just sit in the periphery, build almost a full EMP. I feel like he was really, I guess his impact was underrated by the Eternal there.
Oh, absolutely, because you had Jojo and Don pushing on forward, trying to get towards some of the back line of the Defiant, and they just never able to access this. A nice spot from Aspire. Oh, he
lost it! He lost the bomb! Yep, that's another very rare stun on a Tracer while she's actually performing the pulse bomb deployment animation, so she loses the ultimate entirely. It wasn't just a missed bomb, it was it just vaporized. Zato in a position to clean up sooner. I mean, it's a nightmare for Aspire, but elsewhere, the news is a little less dire for the Defiant, Matt. They keep the point here, 39 and counting.
This is just such a significantly better composition for Toronto. Like you mentioned on the first point where they had a comp that was trying to do multiple things. That rarely ever works out in Overwatch, right? Where you pretty much need to commit to a play style and just kind of have everybody tailored around that to make things work. Where you're playing a Winston with a Hangzhou, as that's a bomb by Michelle coming in. This dive makes so much more sense.
Oh, look at this, the head. They go past the air matrix here. They're going to make it pretty much useless to the Eternal, who now have to fight on the back foot. And this is using the mobility of this composition, and Matt, like you mentioned, in a more focused way, where every element of this team composition is supposed to facilitate that kind of engagement, that aggressive push forward past the Ant Matrix, and it looks much better for the Defiant. This is a streamlined composition, and then now it's 79%.
Paris is in a rough spot because you have these three big ultimates, you know, with the Supercharger, the High Noon, and then the Molten Core. So you can't really switch off of this, even if you don't really love this comp, because you can't give these ultimates up that late in the game.
Oh, look at that Stone Cold. You can't throw the Immortality Field down. So should be a chance for Paris to get back here. Deadeye used, of course. We saw Aspire may have deployed another Pulse Bomb in that fight here, but Paris sit back here after using the Supercharger Deadeye combo. And they're in control, finally.
Big win condition, though, for Toronto. All they have to do is farm up this EMP, which you see how close Hisu is to it, doing a nice job just getting in, doing damage. Now, you get a good EMP here, especially it lands on like a, you know, a Judro, Khan, maybe even Naga, right? You're in a position as you see Naga kind of playing around this wall here to close it out with just using the EMP.
Naga just watching the flanks right now. That is his job. Needs to make sure that someone like Hisu or Aspire doesn't slip in and get into a critical location. Hisu is revealed, but he's still able to get the EMP out. It catches 4. Drinjo, though, has a rally. He pops it straight away. Now the Eternal have a little bit more durability and healing, despite most of them not having their abilities. And Ansu J goes down first. It had to be a good EMP, but the fact that Brig is able to pop that rally in the aftermath means that the Eternal can weather the storm. Self-destruct there. It's going to be the remake for Vestala, but fight's done here, and the Eternal remain in the driver's seat.
That's going to hurt the Toronto Defiant. You get the EMP, and it hits a lot of players, but just not Dridro, and he's able to use the rally. You then try and answer with a Transcendence of your own, try and like withstand on through it. They just answer back with a Molten Core, and nothing's able to happen. So now Toronto, without that big win condition, allowing Paris to get some ultimates of their own. And also some good point percentage. I mean, you're going to lose Aspire at the beginning here. The Tracer's a huge source of damage. You probably have to back out here if you're Toronto. And you're just letting Paris right back into the game.
I mean, this is difficult, right? Getting halted in front of a Torbjorn and his turret shooting at you is brutal. Aspire can't go in first here. Otherwise, he'll get auto-targeted by the turret. Immortality Field down, though, for Khan here. He's going to be picked up. Suna now looking for a Deadeye. He's on the low ground, though, so can't actually really see much at all. Maybe it buys a few valuable seconds for the Paris Eternal to work with. This gives him the chance to flank, but as a Transcendence now in play, I'm curious to see what Suna can really get done in this instance, and the answer is not a lot. He's still having to roll forward, get rid of the Cowboy. Vestala is down now, and this is the Defiant now, should move back into control here. There's a Supercharger in play and an Amplification Matrix, but so hard to get an angle on the Defiant. They've already folded back to the point here. Dan is going to try and push up, despite the fact that he's used Fortify. That's an EMP that hits almost everybody. Dridro did have Rally in play, and that's helping the backline stay alive, but Dan has to flank around on his own to touch the point. Fortify again, backs away, but there's too much damage for him to withstand, and now Vestola steps up. He's hit with the Discord Orb, though, and Khan, great target focus here, by the way, for the Defiant. They switch in an instant, they see the Baptiste drop in, and they'll clean things up. It's even Stevens here on Oasis.
You see, like you mentioned, you know, just the ability to capitalize on the Discords that Lastro's putting down, especially there in overtime where they just have to kind of send one player onto the point at a time to try and contest. You're juggling the point with Dawn. When those Discords come down, they're just able to burn these targets so fast. As we'll see what the Paris Eternal decide to go to in terms of a compositional change. They probably need to do something going into this point to get to the upper hand.
There might be a bit of a composition change here for the Eternal. Yes, okay, so City Center, definitely a map that allows for this Spyro play to a greater degree. Darn on the Wrecking Ball is definitely not anything to sniff at either. Let's see what the Defiant do about this Farah pick. There's got to be a feeling that they're going to run into it at some stage. And this puts Suna back, of course, on this signature Tracer pick. Mercy Ana for the Eternal. Standard stuff for a Farah comp.
Oh, and Sato's so weak. So he's able to look like he's going to get out with his life as just the Farah damage through these chokes is just massive. But if you can kind of mark the Farah with the Discord and then have Michelle, as he's been doing so well with a lot of these DPS players, just kind of track them, that's when maybe you can take advantage of the Khan and Dridro backline with the Tracer Sombra.
I feel like the concession you have to make with this composition, though, man, is that the enemy Wrecking Ball is so much harder to deal with. It's really tough to take Sato down. You saw what happened earlier on there. Lastro is removed, though. The Eternal come in with a bit of aggression of their own and show it's not just this reactive style of play they're very capable of playing. They've already capped the point quite early here, and they look pretty comfortable on this very different composition.
You know, it's going to be hard to take Sato down, right? But can you keep the backline alive of the Toronto Defiant? That's really what it's about against this Farah composition. The Rockets are going to rain down onto Asunjae and Lastro, and you have to have Michelle in position, which takes some, you know, defense matrix away from Sato. So it does make his life a little bit harder in a lot of situations.
Keep an eye on that Wrecking Ball. Naga's going to get himself a nano boost here, but doesn't really have the protection to be as aggressive as he'd otherwise like to be. So he plays tight angles and eventually gets run down as Spire was looking for him, but with his Mercy falling first in that fight, the EMP paves the way for the Defiant.
Yeah, and they try and go aggressive with the nano boost onto the Farah, and it just does not pay off because Hisu is waiting there with an EMP, just basically wants them all to run in. Lastro then with a Transcendence, and it's just easy kills there for the Defiant. Can you take the point back with the Farah? I think that's something that's been proven to be a little bit more difficult over time. You know, Farah pretty good at just spamming the chokes. Once you control the point, once you give it up and you have to be offensive and move in with the Farah, that's when it can be a little bit harder.
Right, like how much protection does your Farah need, or rather does your Ana? Great job there for the Defiant. They identify that Khan is playing a little bit of an off angle, and they collapse with the Discord Orb on him. It's wishful thinking for the Resurrect, but Dridro just gets in there and avoids a Spire somehow. Lovely movement. But Khan, frustratingly, is rezzed only to be taken down again. Naga, though, pretty much single-handedly deals with the backline. It's Dridro that comes in to help him out, though. With the damage boost, the heals are also there. The Eternal, it's a good start to the fight, but they still need to clear all of this Defiant presence from the point. And without Dan to really be the tip of the spear, Naga might just have to float on away.
Yeah, and I think even with you get those few kills, if you're Paris, it's going to be difficult to turn the point. But as I say, that Suna's going to be able to get one. The D-Mech on the Michelle is huge. The supports are back, but you're going to lose Asunjae. That's a huge kill.
Yeah, Lastro now looking a lot less safe as well without the Brig to protect him. You see there, it looked like Aspire doubled back to sort of stand around him. Protect him, maybe hope that he builds that Transcendence here. The Defiant is still in control of the point. And Lastro, another one. He's so nasty. Matt, on the M1. Filthy stuff. And again, he's got all the protection he needs. Transcendence will be in play. And now it's getting a little dangerous for the Paris Eternal. Matthew darts hit with the Discord and blown up instantly. Here's the Transcendence.
Yeah, and they have to use the nano on a Vistola to try and make a play, but the Transcendence comes out, so you get nothing for that. You're not going to have it now for your Farah as they come back.
Oh, it's done.
You know, it's going to be... Paris flips the point here, so that actually may have saved them. If Toronto was in control that entire time, we'd probably be at 99 at this moment. So Paris may be able to go back, get a touch because they got that flip.
Well, again, Hisu, eyes are going to be on him right now. I am looking straight at him to see if he can find a game. A map-ending EMP here. I mean, Dan's already taken down, so not a great start. Again, that Discord Orb strikes once more. That's something the Eternal don't have available to them, and there it is, Dridro. His wings are clipped. Naga tries to get away with the concussive blast, but he also can't clear the danger zone. And the Defiant clinch map 1 here. Some back-and-forth stuff, but Paris switching to the Farah comp. It's not enough to overcome the Tracer Sombra, this really well-drilled, efficient approach from the Defiant.
And you mentioned Hisu trying to get a big EMP off at the end to turn the tides for Toronto. Now, Don gets burned down so fast because he loses all his movement abilities because it's actually a manual hack from Hisu, which allows him to save the EMP for the Farah Mercy in the sky, which, now once Toronto got this dive going, Mitch, they were tough to stop.
Good start for Toronto here, showing us a couple of different looks. The Wrecking Ball play looks fine. In fact, Aspire nasty on the Tracer and Hisu looking much improved on the Sombra. Stick around, everybody. There's much more in this series to come. A lot riding on the result here, and both these teams are going to give it all.
The Overwatch League is brought to you by TeamSpeak, the official voice supplier of the Overwatch League.
Hey, feeling good.
The TD MySpend app tracks spending and savings goals across checking, savings, and credit cards, so you know it's doable. And now you could get up to $400. Get started with select accounts. TD, ready to help you move forward.
Well, it's been a pretty flawless Countdown Cup so far for the Toronto Defiant, at least if you look at their sort of win and loss results. But each of their opponents has definitely posed them, a specific challenge in each of the series, and the Paris Eternal do so against them in map number 1. Oasis is pretty back and forth stuff, Matthew, but it is the Defiant that prevail, looking pretty good again with this Tracer Sombra composition. Out of, most of the teams, it really seems like the Defiant really want to be right there. They have a good idea of the comp that they want to play. The Eternal mix it up a little bit, and they continue to make changes as we see Onigod come in for Tsuna.
Yeah, they bring in Onigod, very good hit scan players, so maybe we'll see some more of that on Volskaya. But nothing extremely surprising here in our first map in terms of Paris not really wanting to play that aggressive style against Toronto, and trying to make a game plan against Toronto where they knew they were going to be aggressive, and that's the best look for the Defiant.
So something you can say, I think I mentioned about Nagas Farah briefly. If we get more of that Farah play at some point, it'll be worth noting that he actually is #1 in the eliminations and final blows out of all Farahs. And that's in a world where people like Jin really exist. So again, smaller sample size for him, but really dominant when it comes to the airborne battles. The Defiant probably feel pretty good about getting to play Volskaya. I feel like it suits their compositions generally fairly well, especially if they are inclined to involve some Winston play in their setups. I thought the Winston Zarya look was definitely interesting, right? They kind of tried to make that work. It's like halfway between the double bubble and what Philadelphia are trying to make happen right now. Obviously, it didn't end up really mattering too much. They dabbled with that at first. But defensively here, they'll play much the same, Matt, right? To Tracer Sombra, Lastro's looking really dangerous on that Zenyatta today.
Basically just telling the Paris Eternal to try and beat this, right? With this Orisa setup, which we've seen Toronto be successful against, where I think you make a great point. Volskaya is a map where maybe not as much on defense here on the first point, maybe on the second point, but you can play a lot of Winston here, right? This isn't one of the maps where to play aggressive style of play, you need to play the Wrecking Ball. So we'll see how it evolves throughout the game here for the Defiant. What do you play now if you're Toronto? It looks like they Paris, they've gone to make changes. So yeah, so you play just very static here.
Right, I think they just want to make it as risky as possible for Hisu and Aspire to try and sort of do their thing. For Hisu as well, the question is, who's he hacking manually? Does he have enough time to hack manually? The answer is potentially now. He'll have plenty of time to consider his targets because Kana is down. So much of that healing now missing from the Paris Eternal. Dridro, a very heavy load on his shoulders. And the Defiant were looking to sort of take their time, but Onigod punishes them for that. They need to get in here and get it done, and Michelle realizes that. He dives in, but it might be too late.
Yeah, the stun was huge as it took away Michelle's ability to use the defense matrix for just a little bit. But respawners coming back now for the Paris Eternal. You just have Aspire, Michelle, well, not Aspire anymore, but you just have Michelle and Hisu here. This could be enough for the Paris Eternal to take the point.
Always dangerous to dive this kind of Paris Eternal setup. You saw why there. I mean, the connection from Onigod was great, though. He hits a big shot onto Ansun J. The Defiant trying to get here in time. It's just not happening for them. No chance to touch, and that's probably not something that should be happening.
They
kind of caught that move so fast.
Yeah, well, they kind of were positioning around the point, waiting to make a play, and nobody went in. So a little bit odd there from Toronto. Maybe they decided to save an EMP and play for this next fight. That'll be a big EMP.
I mean, you want to hope this isn't a snowball situation now. The Eternal get 5 plays EMP, but Dridro already had the rally in play. Look how much arm has been distributed to the rest of the Paris Eternal. They are looking pretty thick right now. Oh, that's a minefield inside their very small room. That could have been much nastier on the kill feed. Sato makes it impossible for the Paris Eternal to escape. And of course, Pistola will be staggered a little longer.
Yeah, the ceremonious diva stagger there. You have to use a lot to do that, though, right? Transcendence, Minefield, EMP, use a Pulse Bomb at the beginning. Paris comes in now with a Supercharger, Deadeye, Molten Core. Maybe you can get the high ground. The hardest part, though, is, obviously Lucio not in the hero pool, removed from the hero pool, so you don't have any of that speed to kind of get in here. So you can have a lot of this aggression coming out from Toronto that you can't match. You see how split up the Paris Eternal get.
And look at all this early damage here. Onigod almost went down. Immortality Field had to be used. Sato was definitely looking for Khan that entire time. But now Paris, once they get a chance to heal up, and the Defiant is still lingering around. This is what hurt them on point A. Okay, so Only got just gets the reload for the Deadeye. Thinks he can probably kill the Wrecking Ball there. Sato's able to escape. Now Only got in a little bit of danger. Doesn't have the flashbang up, and Aspire must have known that. He runs him down, but the Eternal moved to point with 5 players. A self-destruct here. What a wacky round that was. Toronto just whiplash. Got no idea what's happening by the looks.
I mean, they had 2 opportunities, so they could have contested the first point, but there everybody was on the map. They had the ability to do so. And then there for the second point, you know, Aspire and Sato spent so much time trying to get rid of Onigod and, you know, other players in the back that they're never able to make it back to the point. Sunjae is trying to chase them down so he can provide healing on the brig. He hides behind the wall. Nobody able to get a touch to keep OT going. So they give up both points on the map with about 4 minutes on the clock. Pretty bad defense there for the Defiant.
Look, Toronto's composition isn't a setup that has to commit. They don't have to. They can give space, they can back up, they can reposition, regroup. But on 2 occasions, the decision from them to commit heavily into an engagement that featured an immortality field come back to bite them. They made some really critical errors against this sort of Orisa-based composition that allowed the Eternal to go, okay, we're sitting back, immortality field to buy some time, heal up, and go forward. Even without Lucio, they were able to punish the Defiant, who are still they're still on the premises when they maybe shouldn't be.
Yeah, just a really odd scenario for Toronto. They looked so well coordinated in that first map, right? It's just, and I don't even think it was their coordination there. I think it was just, you know, the calling and decision making maybe a little bit off. As I know they stayed a little bit too long, right? Where you mentioned they were doing good damage. You know, they got caught at the choke. He got a DMEC on Michelle. Sato and Aspire there weren't able to make it back. Where you know, they got some ultimates out. That's kind of what they needed to do. They didn't really need to do much more than that. So
yeah,
Sato,
force cooldowns, right?
Yeah, Sato will roll in. You'll have Don here just kind of watching the choke, and Sato maybe try and get to the point, force them back as they actually go to the Hangzhou again. So Hangzhou with the Tracer this time instead of the Sombra.
So maybe the Defiant do want to take their time a little more, work on that Orisa shield. Aspire gets in there though, Onigod is taken down. Lastro again involved in that kill, and a nice Discord Orb placed there on Dan. Forces him to back away and actually benefit from the immortality field, but the rest of the Eternal were healthy, and they push in, and they finish this fight, or attempt to at least, with conviction. Something that the Defiant either were unwilling or unable to do when it was their defense.
It's like, did you get enough picks to even come back and make something out of this? If you're Toronto, Aspire trying to get out with his life, barely does so. And everybody back now, pretty much, for Paris. So Toronto doesn't really get much out of those early kills.
Dragon Strike deployed here. That one can't be eaten this time. Although Vistola gives it his best shot. Pulse Bomb in there on the walls. He turns his shield around, but he exposes his back to Sato, who punishes him for it. Aspire, though, working the periphery with no one looking at him straight up. He can do anything that he wants right now. Eventually, Toronto are able to break through here. They lose a little bit of time, but something tells me this is going to be a really back and forth, really competitive map. So just getting point A at this point is fine.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a very long map with the way things are shaping up right now, because Toronto, you'll come into the next fight, you have a self-destruct, where we've seen them do nice combinations trying to get the self-destructs with a big pile driver from Sato. You know, kind of make people immobile, not able to get out of it. And then Lastro now with a Transcendence, which we've seen a lot of teams get aggressive behind. So Toronto in a position to set an even better time potentially than Paris.
Because the Eternal is distributed across the high ground, I'd be surprised to see the Defiant go aggressive with a Transcendence. There'll be no one really within arm's reach there, so maybe reactively is fine. Okay, recall gets forced there. Sato tries to predict the recall location with a pile driver. Yeah, he sticks around a little bit too long. Tunnel visions maybe on the Tracer, and only got punishes for that. Losing your Wrecking Ball first here, Matt. Not a great look, and I think the rest of the Defiant are about to go into a whole world of hurt. The Transcendence here. That's...
Yeah, what... I mean,
okay.
Yeah, they just dropped the Supercharger, and they're going to end up using the Transcendence on top of it. It's actually Sato back in the mix. Yeah, Sato comes right back with a pile driver with that self-destruct. You pick up 2 kills. Maybe this is winnable for Toronto.
Even with an immortality field in play, that at least allows Vistola to get back inside his mech. And to the point, do the Defiant go. Pulse Bomb gets eaten up there by Vistola. Good positioning, protecting Khan. Now he's trying to get rid of Lastro. From defensive to offensive in a moment. They are able to pick off the Zenyatta comfortably enough. Naga's gone down as well. It's a trade. Rally in play for Ansunjae here. Power driver on the high ground as they look to try and isolate Khan. He's staying alive for so long. He's got no business being alive. But Aspire eventually is able to work him down. This buys so much time, though, for Paris to set up here on the point. Dridro's hard to break. Khan will be back in the fight with an amplification matrix in just a moment, too.
With all these kills that Toronto's getting, they haven't even gone towards the point to try and get any type of percentage. So now they'll move on to the point as Hisu gets 2.
Done! Okay. For some reason, Matt, the Eternal really wanted to go aggressive there in the choke. It might be because of their composition, but they get no value out of the amplification matrix. Molten Core hits the point, but it doesn't really hit anyone. And there it is. The Defiant to sort of move up and take space there. Both of these teams, Matt, I mean, what are your thoughts on this? Because both these teams want to try and play somewhat aggressively on their defense when they get a Wrecking Ball in their comp, but they've undone themselves both by trying to go forwards here.
I actually think it's a good decision by Paris. You know, they used the Supercharger, which forces out the Transcendence. I think they probably were a little bit late to do it. Like, they probably needed to do it as soon as Sato dropped, because they do it at a moment where it'll actually allow Sato to come off of respawn and get back into the fight, really towards the end of the Transcendence in Supercharger, which gives Toronto the advantage.
Scrappy stuff. No surprise here to see these teams so close together in time bank, but because they have slightly more, we'll see the Paris now come back on defense. Now, look, Matt, their initial hold here on point A looked pretty darn good. Eventually, Aspire's able to break through, right? They just continue to fully commit, right? This is what the Defiance composition can definitely do on offense, especially if Hisu can work these shields down. We saw him play sort of like an off angle, pretty safe. Hisu just get damage into the pile drivers. He just Storm Arrow as Sato jumped in. So definitely a game plan here for the Defiant. Let's see how all of the Eternal actually sort of manage this aggro.
No. They like the Hangzhou here, I think. Compared to Oasis, I don't really like the Hangzhou on Oasis. I think I'm more okay with it here because there's lots of high ground, lots of open space to be able to control. Nice kill there from Onigod on Aspire, so that's going to buy some time here for the Paris Eternal. So it looked like they were ready to just kind of bunker down on the point.
I mean, the Hangzhou versus McCree and Torp feels pretty good, right? I think the Eternal have to be extra wary about where they position now, because if Hisu gets too much space, he can just sort of line them up, take as long as he wants. He can be a bloody railgun if he wants to. So yeah, the Eternal play inside the bunker. Their composition is aptly named after. And Hisu just throwing arrows in there. He's not aiming at anyone.
No, but he's not able to do enough damage to make a real impact. You're going to have to wait until, like, you farm up a Transcendence, get a Dragon, force them out of that position, or try and get him on an offing. Trying to get above
where he
it.
wants to be, right? Like, just so
yeah, I mean, he's trying to get
shield.
above this. Yeah, he's trying to get above this and, like, almost have players knocked out of it or kind of move out of the bunker, and he's able to put damage down on them. But I know really it's only Vistola. There's like the opportunity where he kind of goes up there to try and knock Hisu out of position that they maybe have a kill on.
Aspire OL is trying to tempt some aggression from the ground crew here, the Eternal. Okay, so the Defiant have encircled them pretty effectively now. Hisu again playing it off angle. You can't really see him on screen there because he's playing from the periphery. Here's the Molten Corner. This makes it a bit riskier for the Defiant, but they go aggressive behind that Transcendence play. Khan goes down, so they find that key target to start the fight with. And a minefield on the point here could prove deadly for the Eternal. Sato deploys those now, and half of the Eternal try and play inside this bunker, but there's nowhere to go, and they're just overwhelmed by sheer force of numbers.
Oh, the protection from Michelle and Asunjae onto Lastro there is tremendous. The rally comes in from Dridro, and him, Don, and Vistola try and get the Zenyatta out of the mix, because if they get the Zen, that's going to put a lot of pressure on Asunjae to force that rally, which they're not able to do so. So now, at least for Toronto, you have this rally coming into the next fight.
It's just as well, 15 seconds left in the round. The Defiant would really love to get an extra checkpoint for their trouble. So they pop the rally at first. Ansunjae hoping to unseat Dridro from the high ground. The whip shot skitters past his right shoulder. Supercharger, Air Matrix. That's a lot of damage. And Michelle is going to be desuited there. Only got able to find an angle to get on towards the Diva mech. Hisu drops now as well, and Ansunjae's just uncertain. He really can't peek at all. His shield is broken. And Vistola punishes here. The Eternal have all the tools they need to make this impossible for the Defiant to come forward. So they'll hold here on point B.
Yeah, just too many ultimates there for the Paris Eternal, for the Toronto Defiant to be able to get through. I mean, you have an Amp Matrix, and once that's gone, a Supercharger. You saw how fast Michelle's mech went as soon as he tried to step onto the point to contest to keep us in OT, but still, you are able to get that first checkpoint. That's the biggest hurdle there for Toronto. So you only have to hold here 2 minutes and 45 seconds. We'll see what Paris decides to do on offense, potentially, with the Arisa Torbjorn kind of slower composition yet again. Toronto, do you consider playing like a Hangzhou on defense? I mean, that's something that's definitely on the table. Looks like that's what they're actually going to do, yeah.
I like this because there's a more prescribed timing around this Arisa-based composition, right? So with the Hangzhou in the mix, though, I want to see just how far forward the Defiant play, because they kind of have to give, Hisu that space. There's also the risk as well of, like, Onigod just walking up on him, right? Onigod gets through the choke. He'll be looking for those looser elements like Hisu, who probably are playing away from the pack and trying to make the most of the fact that the Eternal have to lumber they have to zug over towards the point, right, Matt? Like, it's a decent walk with no Lucio in the mix here.
Yeah. It's, Hisu getting a lineup here. Is that towards the outside to see if anyone crosses?
Yeah, and it might be in that corner just around that left-hand side. Unclear. That really. Okay, so it does reveal Hisu, I think, who's moving on that right-hand side.
So they don't play the Torb; they'll actually play the Hangzhou here with the McCree. So an interesting setup here. This is a lot of damage for Hisu to, for Sato to be able to survive on.
Well, now
you don't want to play the Zen. Yeah, you're not playing the Zen, so you need to make up for some of that damage, right?
Yeah. I think it incentivizes the Defiant to be more aggressive. Otherwise, you let Naga do this. Like, no one's moving him out of this position. That's a great pile driver. He has to relocate there to the high ground. He knows you're probably going to get chased at some point, so Sonic down. See if Aspire tries to sneak up on him. But this is not where you want to be, right? It's Hangzhou. You don't have great silence from here at all. You're in a box. Oh, I feel awful for him.
And they drop down the Amp Matrix to try and allow themselves to stand onto the point, and they'll take out Sato. They're going to be able to get anything else, though.
Good patience from Naga. He is stuck in a box and has to peer out from it every so often, but he finds Hisu there with a Storm Arrow. Again, that really pays dividends now, and there's a bit more space. Naga can stretch his legs a little bit. Frolic in the meadow now, as the rest of the Defiant are pretty darn split, which is kind of a feature of their composition more than a defect. Sato returns very quickly and gets rid of Naga. To what degree can he really stall this?
Well,
okay, big damage
on the Spire here.
Oh, big damage on the tanks! Oh my god! Dan gets taken down there, Matt. It's just Pistola here.
Aspire has been alive for so long doing work. That's going to be his third kill of the fight. It's going to be a self-destruct here, trying to just get a new mech back. And Toronto may be able to hold. You're going to have a Transcendence and a Rally coming in.
Michelle's back. I mean, unbelievable. Aspire's bought enough time for the rest of the Defiant to get back in position. Michelle's a little bit low here, and you see that hastily they're trying to get Astro behind some of this cover so we can hide away from Naga. Pulse, though, here for Aspire. That could be a game changer. 37 seconds left in the round for the Paris Eternal. They need a cap on this point, but they've lost. Only got already. Lastro fights the headshot, and there it is, the pulse bomb. Aspire's able to get away in time with recall, and here comes the Transcendence. Lastro put him on his shoulders right now. Now the Defiant can get aggressive behind them, but maybe Sato missed the memo. He goes a little bit too far. Hold it back in the open and take it down, but Khan has been felled by Hisu. He's sitting safely in the back corner, and there's a Dragon Strike available. He'll wait on this and force the Eternal to walk into it. He knows they're going to be coming from this left-hand side now. Arista Shield gets deployed, and he'll just wait, Matt. Dragon goes off here.
Gamble.
It doesn't quite pay off. It might force some position to the right-hand side and make it less of a guessing game for the Defiant on defense. Bomb into the back. Khan lost his immortality field, and Onigod had to come forward. He was so low already. Aspire's going to work from the top of the bunker, and the Amp Matrix just isn't enough. Sato rolls on away. Khan can't make any use of that Amp Matrix at all because he's busy turning around. And the Toronto Defiant, they pull out all the stops on defense here. Lastro with the Zen. It's filthy to watch.
I mean, that is Aspire. 100% there in that OT. He is able to stay alive so long. Michelle gets taken out. You have Sato come back in. Aspire just, dipping onto the point to contest, getting a kill, going to a health pack, coming back, contesting again. Just amazing Tracer play from him. Puts Toronto up 2-0.
And you can see what that offers you with a composition that is so mobile and able to get back and able to stall quickly. Aspire staying alive. That capture was at like 85%. Aspire couldn't leave the point really for any reason. So he just dodges everything coming at him, and he buys enough time for the rest of his team to get back. Doesn't even matter that Michelle loses his mech there, because there's a Dragon Strike, because there's so much damage on Kanu, just constantly gets picked off by Hisu. The Hangzhou look gave us some questions. We wondered how they'd incorporate that on defense here, and I have to say the Defiant did a bang-up job. It's 2-0 right now for the Paris Eternal. Paris want the play-ins. They want that spot, but right now it might be, well, they might be kissing a goodbye if the Toronto have their way. Stick around. Map 3 coming up.
The TD MySpend app tracks spending and savings goals across checking, savings, and credit cards, so you know it's doable. And now you could get up to $400. Get started with select accounts. TD, ready to help you move forward.
This season, we want to celebrate you, the best of us, by hearing directly from you on what you love about the Overwatch League. Share your highlights and favorite moments of the season for a chance to win a trip to the 2021 Grand Finals in Los Angeles on September the 25th. To find out more and enter the I Love Overwatch League contest, visit blizzard.wishpond.com/grand finals. Bonus points for saying how much you like my shirts. Just putting it out there. And yeah, head over there. No, I no, it's not coming from me. It's definitely not my feedback. It's everyone else's. Let's just be clear. Listen, I mean, this match, we kind of knew it would go down to the wire. Like, it would be a close for Skya map where the time banks got completely exhausted, and we weren't wrong, right? Things got really spicy on point A there, but we saw a little bit of a small adaptation for the Defiant, right? And like you mentioned, like you loved, it was a Spire that held the fort so low.
And now he's
kept
out.
it back in. By the way, yeah, look, it's like you make a great play on the field, you go and have an ice bath, you know what I mean? They got to get value out of Aspire for in the longer term, Matt. This is a long-term investment. I'm just saying. You know what I mean?
What do you mean? Does he have like an expiration date on how many games he can play?
No, it's just you want to preserve. You want to preserve. You want to preserve this guy's.
Preserve your 8 and 6. Keep him in the game. Get to 9 and 6 and move on. Nah, Nice is a good player though. It'll be interesting what they decide to try and play.
I mean, again, I'm pretty sure it's a similar pool between these two, right? We often know Nice was playing the Tracer in a lot of these setups, right, alongside Hisu. So you might see a ton of overlap here between those two. Whichever way you slice it, the Defiant are resting Aspire for now as we move over in a moment to King's Row. And this is do or die territory here.
He's got to get the Supermax. Get him the...
I mean, you have to think, I mean, he's done nothing but inflate his stock with great performances since appearing in the league. He's one of our most promising prospects as rookies go. Remember, if Paris win this series, if they can find a way to reverse sweep, they will be in the postseason play-ins. They have a chance, obviously, to make it to playoffs. For the Defiant, they just want to clinch their spot right now, at least in the Western Regional knockouts, because they're already locked for play-ins, man. They're thinking about Hawaii. They want to get into the knockouts later this week and then get themselves on a plane.
It's a very scary team. They have a bunch of different looks that they've been pulling out right here. As they'll be on defense. So we'll have a double bubble with the Winston and the Zarya. You have an Ana, and then we're going to go Genji Sombra here for the Defiant. So don't want to play the Tracer. Genji can control the high ground, obviously, here on this map. If you want to play the choke, can be a little bit more aggressive there with dash resets. Also provides, I mean, what you have a Nano Blade, you have the Nano on the Winston potentially. You can Nano a Briggs. I mean, everybody here Nano Target pretty much. As Paris, they'll play the Pharah here, kick things off.
Makes sense. King's Row, point A especially. Oh my God, Nice has the deflect there. Oh, he's starting this to look away. Ah, my guy's got ice in his veins. Naga's far from done though. Sees a Brig that's low and he makes it too. This is what one of the top Pharahs in the league can provide to you. Herculean efforts as the Eternal just sheepishly take the space that Naga has carved out for them.
Thanks for the assist.
Yes, gonna have to make some changes here for Toronto. So, well, actually, no. Nice is going over to Tracer, but now back to Genji. So, well, you don't have a Discord to scare Naga. You don't have the D.Va in play. No hit scan. You also, I mean, this last row drops. You also don't have any Discord to, help Sato or any of these DPS. I think he needs a lot of changes here for the Defiant.
You are not respecting this Pharah at this point.
I think you're just bleeding time here.
Yeah, and they haven't been a full 6 since the start of the round. Nice gets picked off there by anyone elsewhere, but we only have eyes for the man of the sky. Naga looks incredible so far. I counted like 7 solo kills. I don't even know how many at this point. Just patting the stats, Matthew!
So I like the changes though for Toronto. Get Michelle back on the D.Va.
Yeah.
Put more pressure on him. Get the Tracer in play to be able to kind of access that backline a little bit easier. Put more pressure on. Do you have the damage output though? Like without the ball and the Zen, is it possible you lose Hisu here early? This is a primal from Sato. This feels like a desperation play just to hold on to the second point.
I mean, Onigod can handle both of these flanks pretty comfortable. flash there on Asado. That Winston's not getting out. Now, Darn catches him there. Damage boost, of course, was involved. And the Eternal have a vastly superior composition. Now they're churning along in terms of that ultimate economy. They are going to be very hard to stop.
So this is going to be a roll to the second checkpoint. And what, you just use Valkyrie? So, you know, Toronto had found a formula that was working, and now we've just kind of abandoned it here on this point on this map. So Hisu will be, this is going to be his first EMP. So,
alright, down. Okay, nice cancel from Onigon. And the Deadeye just whips around and flashbangs Hisu. Bear in mind, this is not an Ana Mercy composition with the Fire. This is the Baptiste variant, Matthew. So Nugget doesn't get nano boosts there, but still is safely able to deploy that barrage. Oh, Michelle, forget about it. He's able to boost himself back up there. He just got remixed. The snowball well and truly in process now. 4:45 on the clock for the Paris Eternal. One of the faster times we've seen on this map. Something's got to give. The Defiant need to find something with this EMP, and it has to include, well, catching Naga would have been good. They're only going to get Khan for their trouble here, as Onigon was able to hide away inside that side room. Khan just gets topped back up. Not quite a mem, but not far off either.
No, it'll be a self-destruct that'll take out Michelle once he gets demacked. Nice, now back onto the Genji.
Really?
Hisu just a desperation Widowmaker. This has been ugly from the Defiant here on King's Row.
Yeah, absolutely odious looks from the Toronto Defiant on this map. Again, I think it's pretty elementary at this point. We've seen enough of sort of what this hero pool provides to know that the Zarya comms don't give you much at all against the Pharah. You let Naga get going, and Onigon looks comfortable in the back line, you're going to get absolutely rolled. That is a, frankly, gigantic time bank, and I think the only thing that tops the Eternal from like getting like record-breaking times here is the fact that they had 1 on the cart instead of 3 at some points outside of the Foundry, but not even close, not remotely close here, and we need to see something pretty special from the Defiant to stay in step.
The Defiant were beating this composition, you know, using the Wrecking Ball and the Tracer, the Sombra, some Hangzhou, you know, the Zen. It's the same comp that Paris comes out and running, and they're running the same stuff that they were losing against this with, opting into it, where, yeah, maybe Ball isn't the strongest on this map in a lot of areas, right? You can still make it work, though. We still see other teams, you know, make it work in certain scenarios. So I'm interested when they see the Orisa, if we see them play the Ball setup, if we see them play the Ball with the Zen.
Hello. It's possible.
I think they're trying to hide.
Yeah, they don't want to show it. There's no way. Although I don't know what... I mean, I guess that Hangzhou is like one element of their comp that might be more curious, but... The Eternals still have like plenty of space, and like the topography of the map lends itself to Hangzhou getting good perch positions and being able to do what Toronto were able to do with Hisu on Volskaya. So here's the switch. So no Fire in play, fair enough. You can actually go for this Zarya here and try and empower Sato to be more impactful, but a lot rests on Hisu's ability to work these shields down to force Paris to play inside a small cover.
As they'll go get Genji with the Hangzhou here. This is just, I'm a little confused on why they would opt to go into this. They just run down Sato.
Yeah, Super Shimada brothers, and they got the mushroom to match, apparently. Nice goes in there. It's a brief deflect. Obviously, he wants to build his blade as quickly as he can, but there's so much to contend with here. I guess no McCree's done, but there's still Shield Bash and Immortality Field. Nice.
I mean, look how low he is. Yeah.
It's a Torp Turret, man. Trying to get rid of it, eventually takes it down. Sato's got into the back line here. There might be something happening, but an Ant Matrix and a whip shot sends Sato absolutely flying. And Nice will have to brood a little longer from this off angle. Only God's gone looking for him now. It's a risky 1v1 to take is the Hangzhou. Nice is able to force the Hangzhou away for now. Great biting grenade. That's just huge. That's the kind of stuff you can follow up on, Matt, and with the Dragon Strike in the corner. Eventually, the Defiant do force the Eternal to play inside a cover.
Yeah, and I think where you see that there is the Genji being able to get the high ground, control that space, and, you know, put down enough damage to force them into the corner, and then you can get the tanks in position. Onigon now goes over to Reaper, so a tri-dive in this. Reaper Tor, but with the Brig and the Orisa, I mean, that's going to be brutal for a player like Sato.
I mean, the only way it's more hostile to dive is if Vasella's on Roadhog. There's a lot that Sato needs to look out for. In fairness, though, look, you have a lot of damage mitigation coming around the corner in his next fight for him. Primal Rage, obviously, getting that health, but the Nano Boost effective health, and of course the Zarya bubble. So there's a lot to protect him if Sato's the one to receive those resources. A Dragon Blade on the horizon for Nice. He goes in straight away. He's going to be able to find 2. An Immortality Field for Khan. It goes down after the front line, so I think he was maybe hurried into putting it into a less than ideal position. It wasn't able to save the life of his frontliners.
But now you can keep this cart moving, though, through this second stage of the map, and maybe now you can start to cycle some of these ultimates. You're going to have a Primal here, Grab potentially to secure it here for the Defiant. So now we have Naga on the Pharah, so Reaper Pharah.
Okay.
This is like a makeshift comp, just kind of what we're seeing the Toronto Defiant run.
Yeah, look, it uses the high ground available to defenders here really well. Whoa! Oh, no, Michelle, you've not done that! Okay. Not sure if that counts as an NA grab here, but a C9 would be even worse for the Eternal. They basically just brute force a solution with these ultimates, and I like it, kind of cheeky.
Final weekend of the regular season, just send it. Go for it. Why not?
I mean, yeah. I'm not seeing much breaks at all here. That a Defiant want to go aggressive with this composition. It has to, by nature.
But look at this. You're going to have, I mean, all these changes coming through for Paris, right? Resetting ults on a few players and whatnot. You're going to end up having a grab, no, not a grab, but a Nano Blade and then a Dragon here. For what potentially could be like the last 2 fights. You get the Tracer here too. I mean, how has Toronto made this close? That's incredible.
Nice. I mean, Nice is doing so well at staying safe, finding kills like this. He needs to watch out. There's an Air Matrix in the back line, but the Immortality Field has already gone down. Here comes Nice. The Nano Boost on the Genji makes a clean kill on Khan. Hisu helps out. He actually takes the Immortality Field down from range. And the Defiant somehow getting close to matching this time bank just by going fully aggressive. Nothing defensive built into their composition whatsoever, and it pays off. Both teams finish the map, and it's a time reduction. 25 seconds separates these two.
That is nuts. As I think you got to give a lot of props to Toronto. Like, you easily could have just said, like, oh man, we just got rolled. LOL, go again. You know, let's see what happens next map. Well, they come back and almost at as good as time, and they're playing this composition that is just so odd. And you see Paris looking for answers. Like, you know, once Toronto started to get going, it was tough to stop and cycle these ultimates, and I think that's maybe what they're playing for, is just, you know, cycling these big, you know, fight-winning ultimate combos time and time again. Once it kind of got out of control, Paris had no answer.
Yeah, reminding us of the strength, I think, of you know, the double bubble composition that is able just to chain ultimates after ultimate across these fights to set Winston up. But it's not.
He was close to
getting resources, right?
He was close to getting
this. Yeah, I mean, the timing there from Naga is, I mean, he gets grabbed if he doesn't concussive blast with that timing, I think. He was very close to getting caught there. So, look, I'd rather give props to Naga instead of sort of being critical of Michelle's.
Yeah, just a little wide left there. Maybe it was a little wide left. It's all good, though. So you complete the map anyway. You didn't even need the grab. It's unnecessary.
I mean, they had about 4 other ultimates that they just poured in there. So you are correct. They didn't need it at all. So, Toronto, no big changes here. Similar composition. Double bubble setup. Presumably, again, with Nice is the centerpiece and not Sato. It's hard to make someone a centerpiece when they're in spawn. He almost heads that way. Sato hides out inside the Aldworth Hotel for the time being. And he's just, it's good, honest work here, getting rid of these shields. He's like a lumberjack of the Overwatch world.
And all they need, right, is some big damage from Hisu at range onto like one player, and then it's go time. And they're going to take out Dridro. It looks like maybe the Immortality Field was a tad bit late. As now you see everybody starting to hightail out of here for Paris.
Yeah, it's possible that the Eternal aren't able to sort of read the cadence of which the damage comes at them from this front line of the Toronto Defiant, right? They feel like they have an extra couple seconds, or Khan feels like he can hold off on that cooldown. it costs them Dredro, which is, I mean, pretty significant, man. Look at Ansun J now with a rally for the next fight already.
Dude, Rally, Grav, Nano Blade, Dragon Strike. Toronto's in a position to push this card significantly through the second stage of the map, which puts a ton of pressure on the Paris Eternal.
I couldn't have gone worse for Paris, right? It's a long fight, so the Defiant build ultimates, and they also lose the point. They don't do a lot of damage. They lose their Brig early, so their staying power in the front line was compromised. Oh dear.
And if you're Paris, you have to consider taking a fight early, losing it, and then coming back with like a more even ultimate.
If you try and end the round here, it could hurt you more, Matthew. Nice, comes forward with the blade here, chases Naga down. Nothing that the diminutive Smith could have done there. 3, of course, and Nano Genji still pretty good, by the way. And the Eternal there, in fairness, don't invest anything in that fight, and they shouldn't have.
And you may not have actually like done that fast enough if you're Paris, because now we get into OT. You're walking your way back.
Grab Dragon.
But they're gonna have Grab Dragon, and you have no like you know the immortality field will be inside it, right? But you imagine somebody like Sato able to get in, just do that cleave damage with Winston. It's really on Pistola maybe to get an E here of the Grab, but that is a huge ask. You also have Rally in case things get crazy for the Defiant.
Pistola has to be everywhere at once right now. Michelle can pressure him so effectively though, and that's a supercharger taken down. The Eternal try and take the initiative at the start of this fight, but that doesn't go well for them, and that's a grab that we'll take. We'll take those happily. The Toronto Defiant rolling over the top here, Matt, and this has gone from bad to, oh my god, get me out of here for the Eternal.
Yeah, and the Eternal rally during this. They use the Molten Core, maybe just trying to get players off of the card as Naga and Dredro still here.
Trying to end the round. They're trying to end the round right here. Naga does well, a couple, but Dredro is in trouble, tries to shield bash forward, but there will be reinforcements for the Toronto Defiant. They will march on.
This has got to be brutal for Paris. And the situation that they were in, with the time they set on offense, to have this Toronto Defiant storm back on their offense, and then now here in OT, that's an Matrix, but you may actually be able to just walk right past this. You're to the Defiant.
Might be hard with a self-destruct in play here, and yeah. This might be the end of the road for Toronto. They're close to a Dragon Strike and a Blade. Nano Blade, okay. Nice gets moved away briefly, but he's still looking to try and get in, and Dredro's already fallen. He looks to the front line now. He says, I can get free damage on Dan, and so he does. Paris looking a lot less stable than they did a moment ago. Nice. It's a flashbang, but goes straight into deflect here, trying to buy some time, and Naga is barely staying alive. Yes, the Defiant still keep themselves on the card. Khan is forced back. Only God eventually goes down, and there's Michelle in play. Starting to return to the wrecking ball, and it looks like the Defiant are far from done. A defensive biotic grenade there from Lastro ensures that the Eternal can keep getting pushed in, and Nice just hides in the corner. Can he stop this Deadeye? Mostly. Naga gets nothing for it. Picks up Ansung Jay as he tries to move up, and Hishu is a safe position now in the Widowmaker. This is the attacking equivalent of the Zephyr Bastion. And he'll sit now and allow Nice just to go to work here on the Eternal. Is the Dragon enough? No, Michelle stands up, stalls for a bit. Hisu, does he have a grappling hook? He doesn't need it. Sato gets back to the card. Pistola tries to go deep and get rid of the Widowmaker, but he can't get the Widow. He gets desuited instead by Hisu, who just turns around. What? He headshot at Khan. Okay. The Eternal managed to hold on there, but it looked like it could have gone either way. That's still a lot of map to concede on an extra innings round, Matthew.
I mean, they essentially conceded the entire map, but I mean, right now, if you're Toronto, like, you have such an advantage of being able to hold on to ultimates in certain fights, like if it starts to get scary, where Paris is rolling, and play for just that one fight win towards the end, where you have, obviously, the advantage to back up against this. Man, Toronto has been lights out in this series. I mean, I was obviously a bit concerned, obviously, with how their defense looked. It was poor. The composition was poor. Offense, they've been able to, you know, change things up just a tad, right? The same composition, but just in terms of how they're trying to play it. Now it's really started to pay off.
I want to get to see that moment from Hisu again, but the fact that Pistola runs at him, it's a low health diva. Hisu gets the DC with the SMG, presumably. And then I look away, and the kill feed, I just see a headshot from Hisu on the enemy Baptiste, and I'm thinking, there's no way you've just done that. Staved off a diva, a very experienced diva at this point, and then just ripped through a Baptiste player. A little bit of flair from Hisu. It's nice to see. As ordinarily, Matt, he's playing as a bit of an initiator, a sort of a utility DPS, but looks pretty darn fine on the Widow. Doesn't make the map end for the Defiant, but they get pretty darn close here, and the Eternal come out with the Farah. They come out with the McCree, Matthew.
So the Farah was a big issue, though, for Toronto on their last defense. How do they combat
They're trying to ignore
right
it.
now? It looks like they're just ignoring it. Yeah, they're not even looking towards the Farah.
Now that works if the Defiant can get a significant advantage within the 3 seconds before Naga actually kills someone. That's unclear if that's going to work out yet. He's stuck to a target now. Hisu just hating life for being Farah in that position, and now Naga finds the rest of the Defiant all grouped up for him, which is just perfect. I can see what Toronto were trying to do, but man, it's a gamble. It is such a gamble trying to do this against Naga's Farah.
Yeah, I mean, it worked on their offense, right? Because there was no defensive Farah kind of setup. So the benefit, though, for Toronto is you've got this time bank, which is so good that you can play for Nano Blade win, right? You can play for a grab. Hisu now in the Widowmaker is not something you see teams go towards quite often. I mean, you'd rather see like the Diva, right? Just gets you more use in general.
I just don't
agree, right?
Okay, so Hisu has to play in a risky manner to actually get good sightlines here. You don't just get them by default on this part of the map as a defensive Widowmaker, right? You need to work for them. So we'll see what Hisu's willing to do to find these shots. But Naga is nasty. The flank there for 2. Nice to have it reciprocate on the other side of the map here with the Blade. He doesn't have a nano boost, so getting 2, I guess, without nano is pretty darn good. But now Naga goes hunting. One more shot and Hisu's dead, and they'll do it.
Right, and you have Sato still on the cart, so just draining clock here. 30 seconds. We'll get this next fight probably at the second checkpoint in OT. That's kind of where you're kind of estimating this next fight will take place. You'll have a Grav plus Nano on the Winston combination. If that doesn't work, you're then in very dangerous territory for Toronto.
Close to Grav, close to Primal, close to victory out of the Defiant here. The Eternal pop Valkyrie preemptively. Lastro doesn't want to peek out. He's a little scared to take space and doesn't have great sight lines on Sato. He has to nano him right now. Into the back line he goes. Looks like Deadeye had to be cancelled instantly there for Sato, but Naga's already done the damage. He's found 2, and they're both supports. Sure enough, Sato gets that kill on Onigod, and Naga had to be taken down there, but look at this, the Defiant aren't there. They had to go aggressive, and this is going to go down to the wire. This grab has to be huge from Michelle Matthew.
Yes, they'll lose Sato here towards the end. It was a nice hack from Hisu on the Onigod. That's what actually stopped the Deadeye from coming through. So, you know, maybe you don't want to... You would probably love to have the Michelle and the Diva here, but because he has this grab, it's the only thing you're going to have here. You'll probably have Rally as well, but you need this grab to be lights out, though, to win this game.
Oh, Vitality Field! Okay, throwing down for Naga's benefit. Yeah, Michelle goes down with grab, but Onigod is traded out here. Naga's looking a little bit low, but Dredro keeps him topped up. He's good to go again. Again into the corner, he tries to push, but a Sleek Dart shuts him down. Is there any follow-up? Yes! It's going to be a Biotic Grenade thrown at Naga on the ground, and he's going to be cleaned up, but still, where's the point presence? Sato was so low, he had to wait for that Mega to respawn, and here comes Michelle with the grab in tow. Vestala hoping to get a chance to eat it there. He knows he has this ultimate, and there's the grab. The grab's on the high ground! It doesn't connect with anyone at all! It's another botched grab from Michelle at a crucial moment in the map! From one week to the other, he's gone from being incredible to just shocking! Oh no, it all goes wrong for the Defiant! The Eternal breakthrough! They stay alive in the series, they'll claim King's Row!
Was he trying to go for the Farah again? Oh, that is a tough loss there for the Defiant. They battle back after just giving up a tremendous offense to Paris. And then on their defense, in OT, their offense was so good, Mitch, and they just kind of, they don't make the right adjustments here as Paris able to come up clutch.
And again, they get free reign for Naga. That's the risk the Defiant take. They say, with this Zarya, we're going to end the game. What's mental? What do you mean, get the Farah? I mean, did Dredro manage to get a Resurrector on Naga in those final moments? Because we saw they get a sleep. Lastro hits a gigantic sleeper on the Farah. They body grenade her, they clean her off. Should have been a win there and then. I mean, going for a res there would just be insane, but... Oh, man. Michelle walks up. Thought he was in a good position to make something happen there with a Graviton Surge, but he misses it. And, you know, I think that the Defiant are going to be feeling that one here. In fairness, they're ahead comfortably in the series so far, Matthew. 2 map wins under their belt, but none of these have been easy. And the Eternal, the kind of team that can definitely take a reverse sweep. This one has not gone the way we expected, ladies and gentlemen, so stick around and see what Map 4 has for it after an insane King's Row. Well, in much the same way of for Sky Industries being very close and hotly contested affair, King's Row also similarly tight in terms of the contest, Matthew. I have to say those final moments were absolutely ridiculous. A lot of really significant events actually happening pretty much at the same time. Tough to follow all of it, but we're on board with Michelle, who we sort of hyped up his Graviton Surge as being a potential game winner. Let's just say it's a foul ball.
Yeah, I think, you know, looking at it and seeing some of the pictures on Twitter and whatnot, it looked like potentially the Batiste and the Mercy were like to the left, like on the high ground, and like as he was coming up to shoot it, dropped down. The odd part about that is, you know, I guess you connect with them, you kill them and win the fight.
Sure.
They also had a pulse bomb though. So like even if you kind of would have like went for the 76 or like kind of got a little bit further up, like you still have the pulse bomb damage into the grab, which, you know, in combination with Sato at that time, probably would have been enough to, you know, even if you kill one of the tanks or something in that situation, right? Everybody kind of crumbles after that. So yeah, just a play at the end that does not work out in their favor. But Toronto's still ahead in the series. This one has been close though. 2-1, 3-2, and then a 6-5. Who knows? Honestly, who knows what happens on Route 66? Like, I couldn't even begin to tell you or even kind of theorize what we're actually going to watch. Because it's just been, even though the games are close, so varying from point to point. Lots of different compositions between these two teams, like a little bit of a game of chess. It's been a wild one.
Route 66. A map where maybe we see a little bit less Pharah lately. Maybe that's why the Defiant opted into that, because their adamance on choosing Zarya leaves them very weak against Naga getting to play what appears to be one of his comfort picks, and those stats are continuing to get more and more compelling for his Pharah play. You know, and that's it. I mean, I feel like this just, it's a risk. Toronto were banking on Naga just not being filthy good on the Pharah, but the Eternal are the wrong team to play like that against, it's safe to say. Here, though, I mean, not surprised, right, to see, you know, the Tracer Sombra set up for the Toronto Defiant. Nothing too fancy, nothing too complex. Nice has looked pretty decent on the Tracer. We'll see what the Eternal come out with here. And look, is it Torb McCree where they're going to be, or the Hangzhou maybe?
Yeah, possibly. But what I don't... I mean, we'll see how this game goes. I think if Toronto were able to win with this composition versus the Orisa setups, which has been consistent throughout this series thus far with these two teams, I think you'd really have to question why on King's Row they didn't just do this. We'll see if they're able to do so. So right now, it looks like... okay, no, we're going to have Torb in the mix. Static composition here for Paris trying to play on the cart. It's going to force Toronto in to try and, you know, make a play.
How many teams play so far forward on Wrecking Ball on defense here? I feel like so many of them just back up around the corner entirely with this setup.
Yeah, they were pretty far up. As soon as I think they saw this Torbjorn set up and the McCree come out, that's when they decided to pull back closer to Big Earls, where we see a lot of other people play.
Nice. And not much else to distract the attention of the Eternal, so he will become public enemy number 1 if he lingers too long. Only got to be hunted. And Nice is able to get back up to the high ground comfortably enough. Okay, very drawn out manual hack there. He's leaves himself very exposed to the flashbang threats. And he gets taken down as a result, but good response to the Defiant. Whether willingly or otherwise, they commit to this fight. And they get Khan first. Good target focus.
It's been consistent when Toronto's run this. Like, Lastro's been popping off on this end. Like, it seems like their coordination is so good around this Wrecking Ball. I am so lost why they opted not to run this in that last map. But you see they have control right now. You have a lot of good ultimates online here for the Defiant as well.
Yeah, it looks like that Genji experiment kind of prevented them from, you know, playing this composition. Also,
Yeah.
it was a Spire on the Tracer that really just looked unbelievable, specifically.
Nice's Tracer is good too.
Yeah, looks really solid. I mean, the guy loves to flank. It just seems like a perfect match. Good shield bash there from Dridro. Didn't have to use that there, but it put Sato out in front of the Torb turret for long enough for them to just work him down. But, I mean, the Defiant are really getting some value here. Playing defensively, you know, playing behind Sato and getting those kills. They're building the EMP Pulse Bomb, Transcendence up. This is really impressive. This comp is not easy to execute.
No, and Sato gets back into these fights so fast. That'll be the EMP. It's going to get both supports there. They use a self-destruct to maybe try and deter the players from diving in, but you get Onigod. That's good enough to stop the push of Paris.
And they get Sato out, do they? No, okay, he does get caught by Drudro as he tries to escape. Happened a few times now, and it's definitely heralds a period of weakness for the Defiant without the Wrecking Ball in play. There is a pulse bomb for Nice here, so key pick off. Definitely going to relieve some of that pressure. That gets yeeted straight into Vestala's defense matrix, excuse me. Transcendence now is in play though. Molten Core denies that stairwell from the Defiant, meaning they can't really take the high ground on top of Big Earls, and they catch Nice as a result. Sato back in the Wrecking Ball now, is trying to displace as well as he possibly can, but Michelle's stunned there and demeched. Can't Immortality Field has gone down though, and it's the time when Lastro can strike, but look, he's going to play inside that small room. He gets another 2 kills with the Zenyatta. Rally's now in play. Lastro finally brought down by Naga, but back to the fight is Nice. A little risky to stand on the card here because Naga just deployed it on the Torbjorn turret in that tunnel on the left-hand side. Translocate had to be used. It's a hacked health pack anyway. Yeah, the Defiant couldn't get there, Matt.
Oh, yeah. You know, you had Asunji had to step off for just a second. Nice couldn't get the touch in time. Unfortunate, though, because you had Sato coming back with Michelle, and they were so close, and you had the minefield. So, when all that is happening, we don't have an opportunity to talk about it. Paris makes a switch. Sombra Torbjorn with Arissa and the Diva. You're playing really to get the hacks onto Sato and burn him down.
I like the Molten Core play, forces the Defiant out of that mega room. May allow the Eternal to hack that health pack now as well and make it hard for Hisu to have decent staging points.
If you don't get these hacks though, Mitch, onto like Sato or Michelle or somebody, and really focus fire them, you are so low in terms of like damage output, I feel like.
You have an Air Matrix Khan in this next fight, so it might not be as bad for this next engagement as it would generally be.
Should get EMP'd though. Should get EMP'd.
Sato's down already.
Hack and they lose him, yeah.
Yeah, that's it, and that's what they're doing. They're shield bashing or just hacking the Wrecking Ball. Sato's getting picked on now. The Eternal have identified that he's a weak point. That's a good EMP though. That does mean that there's no chance of an Ant Matrix, for example, but the Eternal don't bloody need it, man. They just don't need it. Lastro gets ruined there. That EMP takes his shield away. It's an easy target for Naga. And that card is getting to the last phase of the map. Oh, I smell a map 5 brewing. I can just
imagine
the oven, Matt.
I imagine they're switching off of this, yeah. So the EMP came through when they had no tanks available to even get to the cart. So the answer here is Hangzhou Genji against this Sombra Torb matchup. So you stay on the ball, which has been getting quite punished against the hacks. This is even where I think you can make an argument for Winston. Like, it would be very odd. Or maybe even bring the Reinhardt in like a lot of other teams do.
Awkward positioning here for Khan. He's going to play around the corner. Oh my, Lastro is so filthy. 2 there from the Zen. Headshots both. And it will be the Defiant to win out there. The rally was in play for them crucially, but that's kind of it outside of the Transcendence. So support ultimates let them play aggressively on that top right-hand side. I think it was a Molten Core and Ant Matrix response from Paris.
Yeah, like right here, this Reinhardt would probably do wonders on that corner where there's not a lot of big damage coming down onto the shield. You would have been able to hold it for a pretty significant amount of time with the Hangzhou in the mix. You would have had like a little bit of an advantage.
Dunn gets away from the self-destruct. Looked like Vistola was forced into a weirder position, but he's able to return to the fight comfortably enough.
Nice. And
that was a nice hacked minefield. Naga will be able to skirt around that. This relatively mobile DPS core of Paris should be able to just circumvent those explosives. Sato again, just looks like he got hacked once more. Okay, not great looks here for Toronto now. Naga showing us a bit of that rare Genji. He's not even thinking about Lastro right now. Again, build that blade if he can. Give himself a reason to go aggressive. There's no Ana involved, so no nano boost for either of these Genjis, and Nice dies with blade in hand. Not good, and the rest of the Defiant are getting staggered as they try and move to spawn. That dragon is nothing but decoration.
This has been a weird series, man.
So bizarre.
It's, you know, where we see a lot of teams, they go to the Reinhardt in that composition, like around that corner, where they could have had like the Hangzhou on the high ground, the Reinhardt in the mix. You know, they're playing Arissa towards Sombra. Like, there's not really a threat of them burning your shield down and running through. You had Zen in the mix as well. Like, you even could have played Ana there if you're Toronto. But it's just a weird, weird looks.
It's crazy how much that stuff, how little that stuff matters, though, as we talk about it. When you're able to hack the enemy Wrecking Ball and just blow him up the start of the fight.
Right.
You know, like that lack of damage is no longer relevant, considering your biggest damage sponge is picked off for free. So Toronto might have had, yeah, like academically, a compositional advantage there, but it doesn't mean anything because they can't actually play the way the comp's designed without the Wrecking Ball. That's something to keep an eye on here. You know, like there's two ends of the spectrum, right? Sato obviously is dying a lot first in these fights, but then you've got someone like Mag who, you know, doesn't really die at all, but is not able to have that same degree of impact and displacement. So you want to find a happy ground where happy medium where you don't just feed all these kills, you're still able to be there late into the fight and let your team do what it wants to.
And we've seen from Toronto, at least so far in this series, they do not want to play Reinhardt. They do not want to play Orisa. We've seen them play really just the ball and the Winston. And their ball comps have looked much better than their Winston comps. It's just with this, like, Sombra Torb, can you keep Sato alive? Can he keep himself alive? As they'll combo this with Tracer Hangzhou here.
See that which is unseen.
Okay, so Hisu again knows he's probably not going to be accosted by more than one member of the Eternal and Onigot, and he's there. Naga picks him off by playing from this tunnel. Hall of the Mountain King, I guess. Fair enough. It pays off, though. Onigot able to start that fight. Naga able to finish it. Hisu not able to get that sort of time to ramp up in terms of impact.
Oh. They just double team Sato. Sato so far, he rolls all the way to the back to get a Mega, and then has to come back, and they do so much damage, he has to go all the way back again, but he's able to pick up one on the Hanzo. That's huge.
Yeah, I mean, given the space and protect him, eventually he's going to find something like that. The pressure just becomes too much to bear, and it's 2 headshots in a row. If the fight wasn't already over, it sure as hell is now, man.
Yes, Hisu just taking names on the Hanzo, being able to take players out, but this forces Sato to play so defensive as the Wrecking Ball, and defensive in the term of, like, he cannot just be, like, as reckless or aggressive as he has been throughout the series. So we can take a look here. Nice shot there onto Naga as he just kept peeking around these corners. Naga actually switches over and he will play the Hanzo when we go back in the game. And that's an EMP that comes out from Onigon with little follow-up.
It hit Sato, but, I mean, Sato was dying without having to use EMP already. It doesn't really need much help. Vestala very low in a Discord or Wandan here. The tanks are looking worse for wear on the Paris Eternal side. Khan has an amp matrix, so he's able to top them back up really quickly. It's impressive stuff, but maybe he had to position aggressively in order to do so, and Hisu punishes just that. The aforementioned Hanzo is down. Hisu out of spots to run to with that self-destruct, and Lastro just comes in with a Transcendence here. This is just incredible. The Zen play has been sublime.
No, I mean, yeah, he's been sick on the Zen today. The Discord orbs, being able to turn those into kills, and then, you know, big value out of the Transcendences. I think it was just a little bit early on the EMP there from Onigon.
No chance to really get value there. Sato very used to being hacked. He just sort of scuttles away as he does Wrecking Ball outside of the roly-poly form. That is the official term for it. Sato gets some information here. He notes that there's a Brig hiding in reserve. So Dritro is definitely ready for Nice to come knocking. And Lastro just gets halted into that Dragon Strike.
Now you can see this is good, though, for the Paris Eternal. I mean, the minefield you see here in the back doesn't really do much of anything. And now with this Orisa, you can play up onto the car, control some of the high ground with the Hanzo. And this also gives them a, you know, more consistent, like the Torb gives like that off angle and also just like damage consistently with the turret, and then makes it tough on Sato. Now the Hanzo can burst down anybody, doesn't matter who.
So can he get away here? Yeah, Onigot doesn't really want to take the risk. He's got EMP, so good discipline, I guess. Well, there it is again. Death taxes and Wrecking Ball getting picked off.
He got hacked and bashed and just insta-kill.
Oh, yeah, that's an argument against, like, the Wrecking Ball sometimes in these comps, but teams still value it very highly. An EMP onto the back line, I think you definitely take those. Onigot's not quite able to pick off Lastro, and he's able to recover. His shields are now back in play. Hisu not nearly as lucky. There was Vestala sort of hunting around the periphery of this kind of fight, and now he's right where he wants to be. Now soak that damage, give Khan some glory. And the Defiant are starting to bleed on this clock.
Yeah. And how do you get through this next fight where, look, they don't have the EMP, right? But a hack plus like a supercharger with the damage from like a Hangzhou or something like that. It's just gonna blow up the Wrecking Ball. Even the D.Va as well. It's, what do you use for Transcendence here? That's gonna be a Dragon that comes out from Naga. Maybe a half sec too early. As
that's the most aloof sidestep I've seen.
Yeah, he probably heard them in that side room, but maybe reacted a little bit too early.
So buys a little bit of extra time, I guess. Immortality field there. Very premature from Khan. This bomb could be dangerous. And yep, Naga doesn't realize just how far the reach of the bomb would go. Lastro is going to be traded out though, but I mean the Eternal have lost their backline entirely. The Defiant don't need too much more encouraging to start the fight. They pile on in. And now it's just the Vestigious left as Vistola will be knocked out of mech.
It's still a good hold there from the Paris Eternal. They're able to build up towards another EMP, which is going to be a fight-winning ultimate in this next one that kicks off. Lastro has to be in a good position, get this Transcendence off in time.
I wonder if they know. I wonder if they know that Onigod has that already.
They have to have an idea.
I mean, maybe you have to treat every fight like one of those against Sombra, because it's so variable. Sometimes she can just build that EMP so quickly. They spot Onigod, and based on where they found him, they might expect an EMP now for sure. Okay, nice. Has to respect that. Yeah, heal me, please. No? Okay, I'm going to go anyway. Looks to pressure Vistola. Nobody looking at Nice, so that low health not punished at all. And Onigod, Matt, never had a chance to deploy that EMP at all.
No, I like that decision from Toronto. They knew exactly where Onigod was. They actually had Sadu and Nice go over to him, do some damage. They saw him translocate in the area that he did, and then they decided to push the rest of the Paris Eternal to the point that they were able to get down one kill, and even if Onigod comes and like EMPs from the backside, you would have had the Transcendence there, able to save them. So, I mean, good positioning, good play there from Toronto. It's going to be Paris. Looks like they're maybe rotating around, trying to fight Card.
Oh, how bad does he want Lastro? He wants Lastro so bad. Willing to commit the EMP for just a Zenyatta kill. In fairness, he had a Transcendence. But he can do more than that. Onigod goes down. He already translocated out, so that wasn't an option once Nice had come calling. Power driver there. Dredro knocked up. He has a rally, though, so very durable core of Paris Eternal remains. Nice forced a recall, but has a pulse bomb here. Sticks it. Big damage on Khan. He was never going to escape that. And Michelle's able to find value with that self-destruct. And, oh dear, Onigod's EMP doesn't look great, doesn't feel good probably either, because he switched over to Torb.
Yeah, Torb just a little bit more defensive, given off angle with the turret here towards the end of the map, just be a nuisance to Nice. But yeah, you have Rally plus Transcendence here available for the Defiant. Can they battle back again?
Eaton, another one!
Oh.
Vistola really, definitely going to be in a calorie surplus today after that one. Nicely done again, shuts down the Hangzhou, but here comes the Transcendence, and look at how the Defiant try and go aggressive behind it. They're looking for Dredro. He's got a Discord Orb on him, and they eventually pop him, but is that quickly enough? So much time now for the rest of Eternal to get ready to come back from spawn even. Vistola gets rid of Lastro here, and Hisu doesn't have a great angle at all. Sato's down, so now there's no tip and the spear to work with. The heart also about to get broken over the Eternal's knee, and the Defiant, if they want to avert a map 5, they have to win this next fight, at minimum.
And what do you really have? You know, you're going to have Rally here. Vistola going to go get a new mech back. So Sato will be the one to get a touch.
Or not. Booped away. Okay, overtime is triggered either way. Lastro does go down, but Defiant had to throw caution to the wind and try and touch the card at any cost. Dan takes a bit of a licking from the Dragon Strike, but he's being waylaid right now by Khan. He had to try and get rid of that Immortality field. Sure enough, forces the big cooldown out, but what else is he able to do with the map? Great awareness from Vistola, chases down the Hangzhou, makes it impossible for him to touch. And we have ourselves a map 5. That early momentum that the Defiant built has fizzled away, and now the Eternal, they're eyeing off a reverse sweep, Matt. And if we know anything about this team, it's well within the realm of possibility.
Toronto, they were so close to being able to secure this away with a 3-0, with how important this game is for them in their overall season. Going down to the 5th map is a tough one here. We'll see if they make any changes going into Game 5.
Route 66 doesn't go as planned for the Defiant. That was their pick, and it doesn't pay off. Hang around, everybody. Map number 5 is here, and both of these teams are fighting for something big. We'll fill you in, remind you about that on the other side of the break. Well, for the Toronto Defiant, I mean, this series has been hard fought for every step of the way, and I guess that's the kind of recipe that gives you a map 5 on the other end, because the Paris Eternal really came alive there on Route 66. Toronto still playing that Wrecking Ball-based setup, right? The Tracer Sombra look, Matthew, with a bit of Hangzhou mixed in here, but look, Paris look great at punishing Sato. They're investing a lot of resources into picking him up, which is definitely something that our stats team identified, but they are getting those kills. This will cheer you up, though. Aspire gets subbed in here for Nice. Obviously, incredible map 1 and 2 from him, and looks like the Defiant need him to get them over the line and avoid a reverse sweep from the Eternal.
Yeah, I mean, Aspire's was sick in map 1 and 2, right, on the Tracer specifically. And they kind of they move away from that composition, trying out some stuff with like Genji and King's Row and Route 66. Does not work. So now we're back with Aspire here for this final map. You also had Suna play earlier in the series for the Paris Eternal. I believe it was just map 1.
Yes.
We've been kind of riding on Onigod the rest of the way. So he will stay in for this Game 5.
Now, allow me to remind you that for both of these teams, there are big stakes here. For the Defiant, it's less long-term, more in the immediacy. They are trying to clinch a spot in the Countdown Cup knockout to the Western region. They've already secured play-in spot, so they will have a chance to make playoffs. The Paris Eternal, however, sit at 7-7. They win this series, and they are in the play-ins. If they don't, obviously there's potential for a team like, you know, Florida and for the Uprising to sneak in there. So Paris want to solidify their position now and remove any speculation from this part of the season. That's stress that they just don't need. But in order to get to that sort of relaxing state, they have to throw themselves into the mix in a chaotic match here against the Defiant. Matthew, it's map number 5. It's Nepal, and it's all on the table.
I think Toronto also, the ability to potentially get a 10-win season would be huge. You know, coming in, if you would have said they finished 10-6, I think they'd be pretty happy with that. As we'll see the Winston-based compositions now for Toronto yet again, as be a hack here onto Naga as he's going to land on the ground. But can anyone follow this up? As it looked like Vistola there to help him out a little bit.
Yeah, well, I mean, most of Toronto's resources were actually focused on the dive there. So once the call comes out that Naga is hacked, it's only really Ansun J and Hisu that turn around, and Naga's getting pocketed this whole time by Dredro. So the Defiant have a positional advantage for a moment. They force, obviously, Dan and Co back, but they still need to deal with the bird.
So Toronto moves to the point, though, and takes it. So this makes it a little, like, where does the Farah go? It'll be a rocket barrage as trades his life for a Sunjae's.
Dredro hoping to really make it worthwhile by getting a resurrect there, but it's just not going to be possible. Michelle is really paying attention to his blind spots there. And Aspire just cuts through the remainder of the Eternal and builds up that whole spawn for the next fight.
So his Tracer's really been a difference maker. You know, maybe not able to play some of the things that Nice can play, but you know, in this meta and with the way that Toronto's looked, they've looked great with him in and on this Tracer, where has a pulse bomb available here, EMP for Hisu. So this should be where it makes it becomes a little bit easier for Toronto on defense, where they have to come in with that Farah. Maybe you can catch out the Ana.
Toronto definitely hoping to lean into a more comfortable round. Khan gets a bit of tickle. Bit of hot foot, knows he needs to move up now as Aspire prevents him from hiding away, and it forces him into the EMP's purview, and Aspire's able to finish the job. Khan wanted to sit outside of that EMP radius, but he had no choice but to move up and face the music. Aspire takes him down.
Rally, Nano, self-destruct, Primal, and you held onto that pulse bomb here.
Such a cheap fight
for
win.
the Defiant. It's a very cheap team fight win, especially with how Paris has to like posture to get in position to make a play, and then they just walk into the EMP.
Khan, little low, misses the health pack. He doesn't path correctly over towards it. I don't think it was hacked at all. He's not able to pick that one up, then Lastro finishes the job, but is punished for it. He must have had to position more aggressively to find the biotic grenade angle. And this is another Toronto Defiant fight win, Matthew, in the making. The Eternal need to do something big here. It might need to be a nano-boosted Farah barrage here. And getting rid of Ansun J is a good way to start, but Sato, it takes to the skies. Dredro has to run away, and Sato heads back to the point. Naga didn't have his pocket. You love that from Sato. Isolating the Mercy, so Naga's out at sea. Onigod gets left on the point and has to use that recall. The Nano Boost is all well and good, but there's going to be a reckoning here for the remainder of the Eternal on the point now, and they've got nowhere to run. Pistola with a self-destruct. Sato. Oh, he couldn't bubble it, actually, because of the pile driver stun. But overtime will still tick down, and the Defiant will take the first round convincingly.
It's very reminiscent of some of the other things we've seen from the Defiant. Is Paris, you know, when they've come out with these like interesting compositions, that's when they've really slowed down this dive. So maybe we see them go back to the Orisa type setups. That seemed to be what they were getting the most value out of. They're gonna play. Oh, interesting. So we'll see. They are gonna go over to maybe a 76 here. So we'll take a look at a replay from Spire's POV.
Work's only got down there pretty comfortably. This is like one of the first fights, I think. Yeah, it's the cleanup after that first fight. The Defiant already captures the point, so the Eternal were rushed a little bit. Now that Orisa comp nowhere to be seen, Matthew.
Now they're gonna play Soldier. Soldier Tracer here.
I'm out of here.
Hisu tickles, goes back to hack the health pack. The Eternal are being contained right now until Dan decides to go out on that left-hand side. Michelle drives in though. They must know yet there's blood in the water. They knew Dan was pretty low on health, but he's able to get away and pile drive Lastro. Oh dear, that went horribly for Toronto.
Yes, they got a biotic grenade in on Dridro, and then they decide to push on through. And Sato actually is trying to like body block one of the doorways, but just a lot of extra damage now that the Paris Eternal have the Zen in the mix and able to burn down Sato and Michelle. Nice job also by Naga just to kind of stay alive, keep some pressure on the Hisu and Aspire on the opposite side of the doorway.
Both teams want to control the point, but neither wants to stand on it at all.
Do some healing.
See the Defiant sort of filter in from the edges here. And only God's job is to kind of control that. At least tax it. So he knows that health pack is hacked, so it's kind of annoying to try and win this fight. He knows he needs to try and like outright one-clip Aspire, but it's so hard to win with that. Mega is available to the Tracer at all times. Attack visor in play now. Aspire still has a cheeky off angle with a health pack to play around. And he must have known only God went down to the point here. Naga in a safe spot to make use of the Soldier here. No kills completed, but those healing resources from Toronto are getting stretched thin. But it's the Eternal that actually crumble, Matt. Only got found to use for the Pulse Bomb in the end, but Naga and Dan are down. So the Eternal are pretty much stuck here on the point.
Yeah, and it was a hack, and we're going to see Khan actually use Transcendence here. Do they actually think they can win this? You have Don coming back into the fight. Onigod will take out Lastro. You may be able to flip this here now if you're the Paris Eternal.
All right, and yeah, man, that's why Michelle just sticks around on the point here. He goes for the self-destruct. He fancies a remake opportunity now to try and keep contesting. And so he does. Riley's going to also be in play for the Defiant. They fancy as much extra percentage as they can possibly get from this. Only got out a recall there. Aspire gets discorded. And the Defiant disengage.
All right, so Paris gives it up for a little bit, but able to turn it around. And now that's where you see how powerful the Wrecking Ball is, right? On Live, I think they just nerfed the ability to use the grapple right off a spawn. But right now, you know, in the patch we play on Overwatch League, still able to do so, and Don able to get back in the fight so fast.
Great pick by Onigod there. Removing Lastro means that this is a non-starter for the Toronto Defiant. My God, it's a mirror image of how they started in that first round. Paris have woken up now and are not going to let this series slip away from them without a proper fight.
Yeah, Sisu tries to put a lot of pressure onto Naga, but just not able to really kind of make him sweat. He's able to, you know, just drop down the biotic field, stay alive long enough, you know, put some damage down, force Hisu to recall. So, do have the attack visor here available from the 76. See if it comes
Endless
out.
battle over the side room, man.
Yeah.
Both of these chasers. Okay, Sato gets a nano for once in a blue moon, I suppose, but there's no idea what to do with it. There's really no one in sight for him to get value from, so the Eternal, great disengage. They haven't even given up the point. They're still able to get Sato just completely outplayed. Ankle snapped, but Aspire gets in there and finds a key pulse bomb onto Dridro despite the Transcendence of Khan being in play. So we have a 5v5, but it's the Defiant who are lacking their main tank right now, and Michelle is desuited. Sato switches over towards a Wrecking Ball here, but it's unclear if that's going to be too late or not. Khan waiting for another Tracer foray, but it never comes as we get a third round here on this decider map.
And Khan and Naga at range, able to, discord, and then the 76 damage comes up huge there. And we caught a little bit of it, but, Aspire trying to get in onto Naga. Same with Hisu. It's a discord that comes down. There's some damage, and it forces a recall or a translocate all of the time. And that's really been a difference maker for the Paris Eternal. This series comes down to one final point. So we'll see if they play with the Soldier again.
I kind of like it. I mean, Naga made himself sort of, he didn't really need many resources, right? Pretty self-sufficient, considering that, Pistola obviously was elsewhere, probably trying to keep Dridro and Khan standing, especially with these biotic grenades coming in from Lastro. Again on the Soldier here, so probably aiming to play a little bit of an off angle here. Both DPS are pretty self-sufficient on the Paris Eternal side of things. Pile driver follow-up. Wow, was quick. Look how quickly the Defiant pounced there on those airborne players, and Khan, well, he never hits the ground.
So, Toronto just trying to push on through now. Like, you've gotten, a trade here at the beginning, but once you get that Zen, you have that advantage. The Zens obviously trade out on both sides. One team should be trying to take advantage of this.
Onigo trying to knock a bunch of heads together. But, in that brief window when he recalls out, he loses Dridro there. The Defiant are able to overcome Paris's resistance to dive. And again, now they control the point here. So, a little bit harder, I feel like, for Naga to play these off angles until he has, like, a nice tack visor set up. And in that case, like we saw Chang6 do so effectively, Sato probably has to try and jump on the Soldier.
Yeah, just get in his face. But you do have like the Toronto Defiant set up on the high ground here. 76 with the supports go low. It's very dangerous with things like a minefield not available right now. Pulse bomb eaten though by the Stola in this close quarter area.
Oh, Naga taken it by Lastro there, even though there was a biotic field in play. Man, I feel like that health pack in that room being hacked is pretty significant.
Yeah, and when they were inside of that, close room, what happened? It was an EMP that comes in from Hisu, which then the pile driver comes through, just all that damage in that close quarter area, which seals the deal for the Toronto Defiant. Now we have Naga going to play the Sombra, so now we've moved to a point, really one of the first times in this series where both teams will actually match.
Have the Eternal reached their evolutionary apex in terms of how their comp has just been shifting over the course of this series. Extremely mercurial has Naga been, going from one DPS hero to another, but that one a little underwhelming as Sato is able to knock the wind out of him.
It's just more time, right? Now you just have to wait even longer. Both teams with support ults here coming into this next fight. Spire getting closer to the Pulse Bomb. Really, a Pulse Bomb at the beginning of a fight like this really ends the game.
A lot of early pressure here on Pistola. Sato also low, but they catch Dridro. Lastro delivers again, and he's got a Transcendence to hold on to, but they might not even need it. Again, the Eternal, they cap the point during that fight, so they avert losing the round here and now, but it might just be a stay of execution more than anything. Transcendence from Khan. Lastro, nerves of absolute steel, just holds it, holds it, holds it. He knows he can.
They get a Discord onto Onigon as the Spire presses them out. You still have this Transcendence, like you mentioned. We're going to go in OT. Here's going to be a minefield.
Lastro's able to get the Transcendence. Here we go. EMP catches Pistola by the looks of things, as well as Onigon. They can't capitalize on either of those kills, but getting rid of Dan seems to be the first port of call for the Toronto Defiant. The Trace the Sombra composition with the Wrecking Ball now really starting to shine in a huge way. Lastro, again, saving the Transcendence for when it's needed most. It couldn't be baited out of him. And the Defiant are rewarded in the biggest possible way. They're going to have a chance to compete for a spot in Hawaii.
A really nice way to close this out for Toronto. Honestly, they probably will go back and feel like this series was way too close for what it should have been. Aspire 3-0 in maps. I think he definitely proved how good he is on the Tracer for this team. And really kind of holding on to Volskaya. But wow, what a win here for Toronto. Moving to 9-6. Very good record on the overall season.
Yeah, I mean, they're already locked for play-ins, so they know that's secured. The prospects in the postseason aren't going to get any better. I mean, this is a win that requires a lot of grit, a lot of determination from them to avert a potential reverse sweep. That has always been something that's required a lot of fortitude to stave off. And in the way that they did it as well, they look pretty well positioned to be a scary team with this Tracer's Sombra setup. They've tangled now with a lot of teams over the course of this stage who've all looked improved as a result of this hero pool. But I've got to say, Matt, he came out after map 2. I'm glad he came back in because the player of the match here today is 100% got to be Aspire. He blew my mind on Volskaya Industries, Matt. The sort of 1v4, 1v3 stall on point B to give his team the time to come back. He's working very well right now with his pre-nerf Wrecking Ball, being able to return to the fight very quickly because the grapple hook's available out of spawn. But you've got to say that individually, incredibly skilled, and obviously we're all pleased to see he was offered a full contract with the Defiant.
Yeah, absolutely. I thought he was tremendous throughout the series on the Tracer. Really, I think the biggest difference was Aspire on the Tracer, and then last show when he was able to play Zen. Khan didn't really play as much Zen as last show throughout the series, but man, Aspire was able to really, send that OT on Volskaya, really kind of flip that map in the Toronto Defiant's favor, and then obviously for the first and the last map, played a huge role on the Tracer.
Yeah, getting a pulse bomb per minute. Again, he's dealing with Vistola, who is very good at shutting down all kinds of ultimates, right? The Dragon Strike was definitely something that he was good at dealing with, and a lot of those pulse bombs. So despite this, Aspire is, look, playing some hair-raising Tracer. The Sanctum matchup between him and Onigot, them trying to control that Mega Room through at multiple points on the round was really quite exciting. Very mechanically talented players on both teams here, and Aspire is, Christ, he came into the season a little bit late. I know people are asking for him to be in the conversation for Rookie of the Year because the guy has just exploded onto the scene.
Pelican's pretty good. I think Pelican, for that Rookie of the Year, but no, I think Aspire, maybe with some more time, right? Having played the whole year, could have been in that conversation, but I think Toronto will take their spot, in knockouts and play-ins instead.
Yeah, they'll be happy enough with that, and so will we, I'm sure, to see more of them. Coming up after the break, we're going to hear from Ansoonjae, of course, a tough-fought victory for the Toronto Defiant. I'm sure there's many insights to glean, so stick around for that. We'll be back after this.
Welcome to Game Break, everybody. My name is Danny Lim, and we're joined now by An Sun-jae from Toronto Defiant. An Sun-jae, congratulations on the win today. 안 순재 선수 인터뷰 참여해주셔서 너무 감사드리면서 또 오늘 승리 너무나도 축하드립니다.
감사합니다.
Alright, so a lot of teams have already locked in their spots for the end of the season play-ins, but you guys are still fighting to stay in it. Do you guys feel any added pressure since you guys are not only playing for the Countdown Cup, but for the play-ins as well? 지금 이제 좀 있으면은 정규 시즌이 벌써 마무리가 될 시기인데 지금 좀 많은 팀들이 거의 다 이제 토너먼트 이번 시즌 플레이-인 좀 이제 어느 정도 자리를 잡았다 하면은 반대로 이제 아쉽게도 지금 토론토는 당연히 카운트다운 컵 지금 이번 토너먼트뿐만이 아니라 시즌 플레이인도 어떻게 보면 좀 플레이인으로 들어가기 위해서 계속 좀 싸우시는 중이잖아요.
네.
그것 때문에 조금 뭐 어느 정도 좀 부담감이나 경기를 치를 때 좀 그런 게 있나요?
아니 오히려 좀 마음 편안하게 게임하는 것 같아요. 뭔가 잃을 거 없다는 느낌으로. 네.
So not really. There's really no pressure for us. You know, we're sort of taking it, you know, because there's really not much for us to lose at this point. So there's not really added pressure. We're not really thinking much about that, and we're just continuing to play every match that we have to face. All right, talking about the matches. Of course, you guys had a great win today, and you guys had a really good Countdown Cup this tournament specifically. You guys are 3-0 right now, and just one more win, and you guys will be 4-0 in the Countdown Cup going into the knockout rounds. But I don't think it's going to be an easy one personally, because you guys are going to be going up against San Francisco Shock. What are your personal thoughts about the San Francisco Shock in the Countdown Cup? 자, 이제 지금 어떻게 보면 토론토 팀이 이번 카운트다운 컵 토너먼트에서 좀 굉장히 좋은 성적을 내고 있어요. 지금 3승 무패, 다음 경기까지 이기시게 되면 4승 무패로 굉장히 강한 모습으로 카운트다운 컵 노카웃전에 들어가시게 될 텐데 제가 봤을 때는 개인적으로 조금 그래도 굉장히 쉽지만은 않을 것 같아요. 왜냐면 다음 상대가 아무래도 샌프란시스코 쇼크이기 때문에 안순재 선수가 보시기에는 개인적으로 솔직히 말씀을 한다면 지금 센쇼크에 대한 개인적인 의견이 어떻게 되시나요? 카운트다운 컵에서 센쇼크는 굉장히 무서운 상대인가요? 아니면 어느 정도 해볼 만한 상대인가요?
이제 쇼크도 이제 정말 이제 잘하는 팀이긴 한데 이제 전처럼의 쇼크 이미지는 없어가지고 네, 진다는 마인드는 아니라 네, 각자 준비한 대로 하고 이제 각자 실수만 적게 하면 솔직히 무난하게 이길 것 같아요.
Right, so Shock is, you know, there's no doubting that Shock is a really good team, but you know they're not the Shock that we've seen from the previous season. So we're not really going into the match with the mind that we're gonna lose. You know, if we don't make the team that makes less mistakes and who really prepare the match better will probably get the win. So I think the Shock right now that's where they stand for us as the Toronto Defiant. All right, An Sun-jae, thank you so much for the time. This is for your time. This is it for the interview. Thank you so much again, and congratulations on the win. 이걸로 인터뷰를 마치겠고요. 안순재 선수 인터뷰에 참여해 주셔서 너무나도 감사드립니다.
감사합니다.
감사합니다. All right, let's head back to the desk.
Thank you so much, Danny Lim. I almost called you Jimmy for no reason whatsoever.
Jimmy. Costa Jimmy. Costa Jimmy.
Every once in a while. It's a great name too. I mean, you know, just saying shout out to all the Jimmys out there. Anyway, yeah. So he just said it right. Not scared of the San Francisco Shock. The better team will win. Some real good PR answers. Love it. Yeah, they're gonna be very proud.
It's not wrong though.
No, he's not wrong. The better team wins. I mean,
I'm kind of surprised that An Sun-jae actually said that, you know, they're not scared of San Francisco Shock. So
I mean, but that's the mindset you have to have, right? You can't go into any single match, no matter how much of an underdog you are. You can't ever go in and think, we're gonna lose. Like, you're not gonna play your best if that's the attitude. So in a league like that, where, you know, so many things can go right and wrong for a team, like you always gotta have that winner attitude. So glad to see that the Toronto Defiant are rocking into their next game with just that. Now this one came down to the wire though, and while I was a little bit confused to saw Toronto never, ever switching off of that ball, no matter how hard he gets countered. There are a lot of looks from the Toronto Defiant, which surprised us here, reinforced positively, I dare say.
Yeah, I mean, this Tracer Sombra composition from them was really good. Luster was popping off on the Senyata as well. Sado, his Wrecking Ball is looking like it is one of the good ones in the North American region. Very impressed by the Toronto Defiant, their ability to break down what Paris Eternal brought to them and actually get away with a win here. Because much of the talk was Paris Eternal, they were going to play the Pharah at times, they were going to slow things down. Naga was on the Torbjorn, they played the Orisa composition as well, and that was going to be Paris Eternal's recipe for success, outplaying the Toronto Defiant by switching up the compositions all the time. But instead, it was the Toronto Defiant show. Aspire looked phenomenal when he was on this Tracer. Hisu found plenty of headshots on that Hangzhou as well, and everyone really performed well for the Toronto Defiant. As I talked about in the pre-show as well, this Tracer Sombra composition that the Toronto Defiant are playing so much really seems to be the meta in the Eastern region, and they just pretty much play it non-stop. So the Toronto Defiant, if this composition is going to be so good with so much potential, these are really good signs for the Toronto Defiant, now 3-0, and much likely heading to the Sunday knockout matches. Now, they did drop 2 maps, King's Row and Route 66. This is where Paris Eternal, they started building a comeback, potentially looking at a reverse sweep, but those are, in general, pretty good maps for this slower style that Paris Eternal found themselves favoring. So, keeping in mind that we have losers pick in the knockout matches on Sunday, Toronto Defiant, they could force the games their way and lean on this Sombra Tracer composition on the maps they are comfortable with, and might find themselves winning a couple of matches that way. So very impressed with the Toronto Defiant's performance here today.
Yeah, anything you want to add here, Costa? I just want to give a special shout out here also to Vestola and Dridero on the other side, because those 2 players played really, really well as well. And yeah, unfortunately, it just wasn't enough in the very end to take this away from the Toronto Defiant, who, with that victory, now also are actually having their best score in any of the qualifiers so far, because 2-2 was the best they managed to get so as of yet. Now, here are the season standings in the Western region once again, and that means that Toronto Defiant are officially in the play-ins as well, which of course is huge. They didn't have a bad season at all. We just never really got to talk much about them because they never made it out of those knockouts and into those end of stage tournaments. So they kind of went under the radar, I would say.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And as you can see here, we have the Countdown Cup for the Western region, and it's all still shaking out. There's a lot of 1s on my screen and not a lot of 2s. And 2 and 2 is really the number you need to at least be in contention to make it into the Countdown Cup playoffs. And it's all going to come out in the wash, I guess, tomorrow, over the next couple of days for the Los Angeles Gladiators, the Shock, Mayhem, Outlaws, and the Vancouver Titans, who all have the opportunity to make it in.
Yeah, so it will remain very exciting here until the very end of the week, which I absolutely love and adore. I love to see all those teams playing it really close to one another. And now, speaking of another potential close match, that is the one coming up, and that's the Florida Mayhem going up against the Houston Outlaws. Now, not only did Florida only just end this massive losing streak of theirs, but also, believe it or not, but it's actually been an entire year ever since